going up against Leopoldo, playing that Intellion Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX deck.
Wow, now this is interesting, right? Because the Rapid Strike Urshifu, the Medicham, very strong against the Comfey side of the deck, but when you apply the Giratina, having the ability to take that Star Requiem, 3 prizes off of a VMAX Pokemon, Giratina still has a lot of play in this matchup.
Yeah, Sam Chen is someone who has been around for quite some time. We can see he was the winner of the New York Super Battle Zone tournament way back in 2003. That was before the very first 2004 World Championships that were held by the Pokemon Company International. So Sam has been around for as basically long as the game has existed. I've actually played some retro Pokemon with Sam in the past, rocked out with some Neo Genesis era decks for Alligator, Typhlosion, those type of things, and it's always fun to see just how much the game has grown and changed and how far we have come.
And across the table, his opponent, Leopoldo Narciso, is trying to get another accolade on top of his single League Cup win. You got to start somewhere, Chip, and League Cups have gotten a little bit more competitive recently, right?
Oh,
Some
absolutely.
of our high-level players that normally would focus mostly on regionals are coming to the League Cups now that they've returned and just getting those points piecemeal.
Yeah, you're going to see the top players, for the most part, are all going to be participating in their local League Cups and League Challenges because they're trying to earn points for travel stipends and travel awards to future international championships. Of course, fighting for those Tier 1 and Tier 2 World Championship invitations. You need to maximize those locals points as much as you can if you want to achieve both of those things.
And now we've got prizes coming out. Medicham V and Squawkabilly in the prizes, really going to hurt the early threat potential and stabilization of the list.
Luckily, does have 2 copies of the Squawkabilly. That's something we see every once in a while just because of how vital that card is to the early game setup for so many of these decks. So Leopoldo will at least have that second Squawk and Seize to try to bail him out. But yeah, Medicham being in the prizes is really not ideal. And over on Sam's side, 3 energy cards. So certainly something that is pretty annoying with the Giratina V-Star deck, especially when some of those energy cards share the same typing. 2 Psychic Energies being there could make for some awkward flower selecting decisions.
Yeah, and every once in a while, when you're playing a Lost Zone deck, you have to go for a blind flower selecting or something, and you don't have enough information to make the right choice. But Urshifu V going to get a Rapid Strike Energy attached and an Ultra Ball to get the next piece of the puzzle. It could just be an Intellion V, could be a Remoraid, Squawkabilly number 2, very strong choice as well. Didn't see the rest of the hand though, Chip.
Yeah, it feels bad to have to discard a Clara and an energy retrieval right away. Super important to be able to recover your energy cards with this deck so that you can use as many double gunner abilities as possible. But if you're going to discard the hand with a Squawk and Seize anyway, you might as well just get rid of those recovery cards because they're going down to the discard pile shortly.
Yeah, it is certainly rare, right? The double Squawkabilly, you know that you're just going to discard your opening hand most of the time. We've seen some players go for the Squawkabilly and reconsider that, but just going to be a Squawk and Seize for 6 fresh cards. Let's see what Leopoldo can pull off here from the top of the deck.
It looks like there is a Nest Ball. I think there is an Intellion V in this hand as well. He did discard a couple of supporter cards with that Squawk and Seize, 1 Iono and 1 Melanie going down. That is something that's a little unfortunate to see those hit the discard pile without getting much use. And right away, Forest Sealstone will be utilized and search his deck for any one single card.
But the Forest Sealstone and the Squawkabilly, this goes to show like how important it is for this deck to get its foundation. It needs to get established to begin threatening attacks as quickly as possible, to begin threatening the double gunners as quickly as possible. And now that Leopoldo has discarded so many supporters, use all of these resources, this is a match that if Giratina is able to draw it out, could spell a lot of very hard times going forward.
Yeah, the early game is going to be really important here for Sam Chen. He's going to want to get established, get a few cards in the Lost Zone, probably go for an Abyss Seeking to close out his turn so that he can set up for, as quickly as possible, a Lost Impact to start getting some damage into play.
Yeah, with 2 Intellion V, very nice setup. The threat of starting to rain down those damage counters is certainly present, but with the Medicham in the prizes, it can't really capitalize, but we'll see how it goes from here.
How about this Skarzig, a pair of Battle VIP pass in this opening hand for Sam Chen, and a Colress's Experiment as well.
And when you're able to open with the Battle VIP pass, rather than having to go for Comfey to search for it, you have a much better understanding of what is in the deck, so you can make those informed decisions. Sam Chen is with 4 ties, I think is already having a mind towards playing a bit quickly. Hopefully can still scoop up the energy counts into his brain.
I like that Sam is playing with the old classic base set energy cards and the base set switch in his deck. I think those are probably cards that he has had since they came out.
I think that those cards in particular have a place in everyone's heart, certainly.
Iconic, for sure. This Battle VIP Pass can grab 2 basic Pokemon. I'd definitely like to see a Comfey or 2 be established. There's a few routes you can try to go with this deck in this matchup. Sometimes we'll see players really only putting 1 Comfey in play, trying to limit their opponent's ability to go for the G-Max Rapid Flow. You don't always want to put your Manaphy down because then it's an easy Yoga Loop target. Sam, however, will just go with the double Comfey. He does have the Manaphy in hand. We'll see where else this turn leads.
Cramorant in the active spot does give you a little bit of aggressive potential. Try to put some damage down. These, Rapid Strike decks used to get a little silly, with Cheryl and all that, trying to scoop up those damaged Pokemon. But this one is just going much more turbo aggressive, getting established with the Squawkabilly and trying to play your own game.
You're choosing to hold off on this second Battle VIP Pass here. Sam not exactly sure how he wants to end up filling out this board. Going to go with the Colress Experiment here before this VIP Pass.
Yeah, very smart indeed. Have a better idea of maybe I can just grab some other Pokemon, maybe save this VIP Pass as discard fodder down the road.
Ooh, that's a lot of Pokemon.
Ooh, Spiritomb going to the Lost Zone.
And I think another Comfey most likely. I do believe the other cards in hand are the Super Rod, Giratina V, and a Jet Energy. The Jet Energy is certainly really nice to find.
And, with Giratina V found, I don't know if Sam Chen cares about this second VIP, just grabs Radiant Greninja or something. Some versions of Giratina V have been going for double Cramorant, but Sam Chen's build just has the 1.
Yeah, we'll see what he decides to do. You also may want to get down a second Giratina V. We know there's one in the hand. And actually, yeah, can just thin one out even if he just wants to go with one Giratina. It's kind of interesting here, though. Does he go with just the single Tina? Leopoldo's deck is not one that's going to be super aggressive. It's not going to one-hit KO a Tina V-Star by any means. But Sam wants to try to leave bench space for that second Giratina V and V-Star eventually, if he can. His bench is going to get pretty clogged up here. He's got the Greninja and Giratina coming down, and now only 1 bench space available either for the second Giratina or the Manaphy. He's going to have to choose which one is more valuable.
If your bench is filled up as well, there's no threat of Sableye. That also changes Leopoldo, how he's responding and allocating those damage counters.
Draw 2 off that concealed cards. Looks like it's a Tina V-Star and a Boss's Orders. No switch in the hand, so he'll have to use the Jet Energy to try to get some Flower Selectings in here.
Yep, Jet Energy to bring Comfey into the active for a Flower Selecting, then you can retreat off that Jet Energy in order to bring up the second Comfey for another Flower Selecting. Maybe another switch card is found amongst all of this.
Yeah, that's probably what Sam is hoping for.
Well, actually, after the attached return, no Beseeching, obviously.
Yeah, but would like to, ideally, I think, pull off a Spit Innocently here, at least to get some damage into play. We'll go for the second Flower Selecting, looking for a switch card, and does not find one. And I believe one of the 2 one of the 2 cards off this Flower Selecting was a Psychic Energy, and we know 2 are in the prize cards.
Oh no, it's so awkward right from the get-go. It feels terrible when you're going second with Lost Zone, especially Sableye just going to the discard pile. Sam Chen knows that Giratina V-Star is going to be the late game carry for this deck.
Yeah, only 1 Sableye in Sam's list, so he will now no longer have the option to go for Lost Mine in this game.
And Leopoldo, when you've been studying Giratina lists, potentially, especially in preparation for this tournament, might be very cognizant of that fact. Has the evolution now into Rapid Strike Urshifu V Max. Rapid Strike energy already attached to this Pokemon. Just needs 1 more energy to pull off that G-Max Rapid Flow again. No, there is still the Manaphy, but you can still, deal that damage, start taking prizes. It's still important to keep your pressure up.
Yeah, and honestly, for Leopoldo, you might just be fine with the amount of Pokemon that Sam has in play here. No threat of that second Giratina, so we could see Leopoldo go for a situation where he doesn't really want to take a knockout. He wants these 6 Pokemon to be in play for Sam Chen. He has that ability to try to control that type of setup. Double Gunner #1 coming out here.
Yeah. the Octillery evolution is so important. It's like Baxcalibur for Chen Pao. It seems to be that evolution Pokemon that makes the rest of the deck go. Picks up Korrina's Focus to draw some more cards after the rest of this is said and done. Another Inteleon V hitting the bench, and this is going to be an, double gunner.
Yeah, pretty interesting to see that Inteleon come down. That means there's no bench space available for something like that Radiant Alakazam. Of course, we know that the Medicham V is in the prizes, but Sam Chen does not. So now Sam knows that Leopoldo does not have any way to use that Yoga Loop until potentially a knockout is taken.
And that can get pretty awkward, right? Because if that first knockout for Sam Chen is 3 prizes, then suddenly Leopoldo might not be in a position to have Medicham be able to cover that spread. So after just taking that quick knockout, it's over to Sam Chen, promotes the other Comfey, needs to keep looking in the deck. Draw for turn is a Roxanne, not quite there yet, Sam. And the only kept the Psychic Energy from the other. But, now if you need to discard this with Radiant Greninja, you have to get it back with the Super Rod. It gets very awkward from here because of those 2 Psychic Energy in the prizes.
Yeah, it's certainly something Sam is going to have to keep track of as he tries to get into the Lost Impact here before too long. A Spit Innocently this turn can be fine. Of course, Inteleon VMAX 320 hit points. It's not going to go down to one single Lost Impact. So if you can just soften it up with something like the Cramorant on the bench, make it so that a Lost Impact in the future can close out the KO for you.
Right. This has kind of been the strategy against a lot of these Rapid Strike Urshifu decks. Once you get a little bit of chip damage on the big VMAX Pokemon, it really puts them in awkward spots about what can be promoted and what remains a threat without giving up too many prizes. And Giratina, a deck that specializes in these sort of comeback victories, can very much take advantage of, these early Spit Innocentlies.
Now, Sam here could choose to bench another Giratina V. There is one in the hand. He's also playing a Nest Ball here, but I don't notice a Giratina V remaining in the deck. He does have Switch Cart in hand, which is pretty nice. It's going to allow him to get rid of the 20 damage that is on this Comfey right now, effectively wasting half of one of Leopoldo's double gunner abilities from the last turn.
Yeah, and Sam Chen, just taking a quick look, decides to fail the Nest Ball. That other Giratina V that maybe he was fishing for is still in the prizes. And already 40 minutes left on the clock, and this is going to be a grind. Giratina V, there's so many decisions to make, so many actions to take every turn, and there's so much weight behind every decision. Players love this deck because it feels like everything is winnable, but you've got to expend a lot of time and energy to make those impossible wins possible. After the Switch Cart removes the damage from Comfey, Cramorant finally finds its place in the active spot to get some damage on the Inteleon VMAX.
There's also a Boss's Orders in the hand for Sam Chen. He did not find Colress Experiment this turn, so we could see Boss targeting down something like the Octillery. Note,
okay.
Sam recognizing how important this Rapid Strike Search ability is for Leopoldo's deck. If he can take that card out right now, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult for Leopoldo to piece together what he wants to do on this next turn.
Yeah, and Leopoldo, especially after discarding all of those supporters early on in the game, already having to use the Forest Seal Stone, doesn't have a lot of outs here to find the needed cards. Things could get very dicey. Again, Sam Chen already working on the line where the game is extended for a very long time and Leopoldo just runs out of pressure and resources. There's going to be a big research here looking for some other Inteleon VMAXs to keep the double gunner train up and running.
He does find one, but no basic energy in this hand immediately. I think there is an Earthen Vessel at least, so that can grab a couple of basic energy cards out of the deck.
Gets the discarded Battle VIP Pass, always nice.
Yeah, past the first turn, those are pretty useless cards, so Leopoldo happy to get rid of that option, something that's not going to clunk up his deck and hand moving forward in this game.
The Earthen Vessel, definitely one of the big factors into the recent renaissance of Rapid Strike Urshifu, being able to get the consistent access to the basic water energies means that your damage output is just that much better.
Yeah, one thing that Leopoldo did have to discard is that Professor Turo's Scenario. Pretty powerful card from Paradox Rift, allowing you to pick up one of your Pokemon in play, discard all the cards attached to it, but return it to your hand. That could have been a way that he could heal one of these VMAX Pokemon so that they take, a hit, pick it back up, and then just reset and erase a turn of damage from Sam Chen effectively.
And it's important as well. We talk about the decision-making from Giratina V-Star for the Urshifu deck, the Inteleon, all this damage that you're dropping down here and there also has to be very specific. You have to think several turns in advance to a pseudo late game scenario. You know, when is Radiant Alakazam going to hit the bench? Is there a way to maybe get the Medicham V out of the prizes? Has Leopoldo completely given up on Yoga Loop this game? Or is maybe banking on being a bit more aggressive, looking in the prizes to find that key Pokemon?
Yeah, there's no Hisuian Heavy Ball in Leopoldo's list, so it feels like you probably do have to abandon the Yoga Loop plan whenever you realize that that Medicham is prized, because you just have no way of knowing if you're going to take it out on an early prize or if it's going to be one of those last few prizes remaining.
And now that things are back over to Sam Chen, with Leopoldo taking 2 prizes to 1. It's going to be a concealed cards now to discard a Jet Energy
Drawing
to draw
2 more.
2. Sam Chen has, you know, a handful of cards in the Lost Zone, not quite towards that Mirage Gate just yet, but almost there. Hasn't evolved this Giratina V either, but is probably just waiting to do the Evolution and the Star Requiem all at once with the Mirage Gate play.
Yeah, just 5 cards in the Lost Zone at this time. Sam would really like to find a Colress here, and I don't see it in this hand. I think he does have a Pokegear, so he can dig a little bit deeper to try to find it.
It's a Giratina V-Star in the Lost Zone. I wonder if Sam Chen's trying to just do like an in-between, where you're trying to get to the Mirage Gate but not use it right away. That way you've got the Star Requiem kind of all in tandem for one turn. Pokegear now looking for hopefully a Colress.
And I do see one, so he will find that Colress. Really nice to see. Whew. We'll have to watch which direction he decides to go from here as far as what attacker he wants to use. Something he could try to utilize now that that Professor Turo scenario has gone down. We could see the Radiant Greninja work in as a potential attacker, soften up a couple of VMAX Pokemon, or maybe one VMAX Pokemon plus something like the Squawkabilly on Leopoldo's bench. If that Squawkabilly takes 2 Moonlight Shurikens, it would be KO'd.
And I gotta get fresh eyes on Sam Chen's hand. As any Lost Zone deck wants to do, the hand size has just gotten massive at this point. There's a lot of options from this position, and there's 2 Water Energy in the deck. He has to get that one back from the discard piles. We're seeing now Leopoldo looking through it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a Water Energy was found on the Colress, so is not going to be able to pull off that Radiant Greninja play this turn, unfortunately, unless he was willing to commit 2 Mirage Gate to that attack, which it's a big commitment to pull off, but it might be what he has to do here. You could attack with the Giratina V and just hit for 180 with a Lost Impact, or, you know, attack with Shred or something like that, hit for 160. You know, he does have a fresh Giratina V that he could put into play, so that could be an option.
Yeah, the Giratina V deck, it looks so bizarre because it seems like you're behind and things are awkward and things are clunky, and then suddenly you win the game, Chip. So I can't count Sam Chen out as yet. We know that his prep time has been a little bit limited going into this tournament, but he was very excited to play this deck. And again, as a long-time player, is very confident in his ability to kind of navigate these complex scenarios.
Now, I do have to expect that Sam will not bench any more Pokemon probably for the rest of the game, unless it's like the very, very last turn and he needs to dig for something with a Comfey, or he puts down like a 3rd Giratina V or something like that. And the reason for that is because Leopoldo only has 4 prize cards remaining. If you put another Comfey into play, you very easily could set Leopoldo up for a play where the Double Gunner hits like the Radiant Greninja and something else on the bench. Alakazam moves 1 damage counter from the Radiant Greninja to the Manaphy to KO it, and then all of a sudden G-Max Rapid Flow is online, dealing 120 to the Radiant Greninja that would have 1 damage counter on it, and then 120 to this Comfey that would, you know, have 70 HP remaining. So that's a quick 3 prizes, 1 prize remaining for Leopoldo. In that scenario, it's pretty easy to KO something like a Comfey.
Yeah, the sort of play and counterplay, the threat versus kind of trying to diffuse that threat ahead of time, there's a completely different game that's going on underneath the current board state as players are trying to sculpt and envision the perfect board state to checkmate their opponent. And with Leopoldo, not having access to our Octillery is still going to find a lot of difficulty to make some of these miraculous combinations happen.
We are going to see another Mirage Gate being utilized here from Sam. The second one of this turn as 2 energy have been placed onto the brand new Giratina V, which we know is going to come to the active and most likely hit with the Shred. Could go for the Abyss Seeking, but have to imagine Shred is more than likely going to be the choice. And I actually like this decision as well. Put this energy on the active, save it as a retreat option for later. That way you can keep your switch cart hanging around, use that to try to heal some damage off of something at some point.
And we've seen that before, decks that are relying on Yoga Loop or Sableye Pings, all those sorts of ideas. When you stack 2 or 3 switch carts all in one turn, you've completely blown out your opponent's plan. They've spent so much time and energy trying to set up. And there's the retreat from the Comfey, getting that into the discard pile. And we'll see if Shred is going to be the attack of choice finally coming into the active.
Yeah, we could see Sam actually retreat into the Manaphy right now and switch cart to heal it immediately. This could be the time that it's worth doing. Instead is going to maybe try to hold off for a future turn. All right. 160 damage. Oh, yeah, is going to play the Path to the Peak and then attack with the Shred. 160 into this Intellium VMAX.
Yeah, Path to the Peak is also pretty devastating for this deck. Have to find a way to bump that. There might be one more way to get the Tower of Waters, but without Octillery, it's just pure top decks from this position. One Professor's Research had already been used earlier. There's 3 in the deck. There's some just clarification around whether the path is allowed to be in play or if the attack was announced.
Yeah, Sam just kind of trying to realize exactly how things went down. I think he may have announced his attack before the path came out. At least that's what his body language looked like. Of course, we can't exactly hear what the players are saying at the table, but it does look like that path is going to remain in play, which is huge.
All right, so the path will be in the play, but Leopoldo's got the Tower of Waters in hand. So.
Yeah, it's all going to work out, but, you know, Leopoldo wouldn't mind being able to hold on to that Tower of Waters
Absolutely,
for a future turn. Right?
Absolutely. You've got to bump this stadium first and foremost to turn the rest of your abilities on, but Leopoldo's just going to go for the Earthen Vessel first. Kind of takes, not only do you get those basic water energies, but just kind of takes stock about what is remaining in the deck. There's actually no water energies in there.
Yeah, no water energy remaining. I think there were a couple of them prized this game, so that could be coming up here at this point. Leopoldo, of course, has already discarded quite a few of his energy recovery cards, which is a big deal.
And then both players now have experienced the devastation of having key energies prized. If you don't have those basic water energies, your double gunners are drying up, and without those, additional pings, your combinations and your threat just is not there either. So after an energy retrieval, just the basic version, not the superior version chip, going to grab 2 basic energy cards.
Just regular old energy retrieval here.
And now the double gunners are coming through, setting up for these combo turns, these multi-prize turns that you were warning us against, Chip.
Leopoldo will attach the energy for turn to the Intellion on the bench, and an Iono is pretty solid here. Going to disrupt Sam's hand right after he took a prize card. Place that on the bottom, and Leopoldo will just get 4 cards to work with.
Yeah, fortunately, Sam Chen was able to use those Mirage Gates, get this energy in play, and now it's just going to be hopefully top deck of the Giratina V-Star to still make use of this active that has all of the energies attached with 8 cards in the Lost Zone. It's just a stone's throw away from the Star Requiem to take 3 prizes and then go down to only 2 remaining. Leopoldo finds a second Remoraid as well to potentially establish the second Octillery. It is a 2-2 line. And that means that any missing piece as part of this final combination he's building towards can be found.
Yeah, both Octillery are in the discard pile right now. One got discarded, of course, being KO'd, and one of them got discarded for research. So Leopoldo will have to play his final copy of Clara if he wants to get that back. But that's a card he probably wants to play anyway to get water energies into his hand to utilize double gunner.
Yeah, and so it is beautiful. Again, this is another deck that seems like it's not going to be able to take the win, and then suddenly rips, 4 prizes in one go, and that sort of flashy finishing potential is, one of the things that certainly drew me to the deck initially.
Sam with quite a few options. He does have a Pokegear in hand, so that could be utilized to try to search out another Colress, something along those lines, maybe a Boss's Orders, try to target down the Intellion VMAX on the bench that is heavily damaged at this point. Set yourself up so that a Star Requiem could just close out the game on the next turn.
This matchup has been so volatile where it seems like one player is favored, then the other is suddenly favored. And that's just because of the early expenditure of resources, right? Leopoldo discarding a lot of key supporters, having to make a big sacrifice for the early Squawkabilly, recognizing I just want to get up and ahead. Sam Chen very expertly taking into account those two missing psychic energy, still keeping a potential threat of the Radiant Greninja, but now pivoting into the Giratinas as we get closer and closer to this game ending.
Yeah, it's going to be a really close down to the wire game here. To be honest, there's a decent shot that Leopoldo can just take 4 prizes on the next turn with so much damage already being put into play. We'll see exactly what happens, though.
After another Mirage Gate, the Giratina V-Star is ready to go on the bench. And now the Pokegear 3.0 finding a Chorus.
And a Boss's Orders, so he has the choice of either of those 2 cards.
The Chorus gets you the 10 in the Lost Zone, but you probably don't need the Requiem this turn, obviously.
Not
if you
this
just boss
turn.
up the damage Intellion VMAX, Sam Chen just has to evaluate, will I still be able to get 2 more cards in the Lost Zone if I give up on the Chorus right now? But takes the boss. It's 3 prizes, way too juicy to give up.
Yeah, this is going to be really difficult, though, for Sam. I mean, taking the double gunner out of play is pretty good as well, which is, I think, what Sam is thinking about at this point. But Leopoldo has a decent setup if he can find his Radiant Alakazam. He can move a damage counter off of something onto the Manaphy with just 10 HP remaining, take that out, take 1 prize, and then you just need to G-Max Rapid Flow this Giratina V. Even if it becomes a V-Star, it still would be KO'd, and then something like this Comfey on the bench.
Yeah, the Manaphy has been damaged this entire game. It's so fortunate that that Medicham V has been in the prizes. And, you know, the switch cards just haven't been there. Sam Chen's been focusing so much on just getting the Giratinas powered up with the Mirage Gates, hasn't been trying to dig deep for the switch cards or try to play around that scenario at all. It's just really appreciating the game state as it's happened right now. And finally, with the switch, can bring Comfey into the active for 1 more flower selecting, and then a hard retreat off, thanks to that early energy attachment you talked about, Chip.
I think he'd really like to find Switch Cart here if it's still available. He does at least find the Giratina V-Star. That'll give this Giratina V a little bit more HP, but with a double gunner potentially working in, maybe something like the Alakazam, I guess the math is going to be pretty close here. 140 damage on that currently, so that does mean that it will not go down to a G-Max Rapid Flow unless 2 damage counters are moved to it. So still a decent shot for Leopoldo to close out this game. We'll see what happens.
All right, and Sam Chen just taking a final count of the Lost Zones, knows that there's 9, so no Requiem yet. You need 10. Stabilize in the Lost Zone, those Lost Mine threat, which is very important as well. This matchup has gone a completely different direction than I was anticipating when we first got into the game, Chip, thanks to these awkward prizes and, you know, what needed to be sacrificed to the Lost Zone.
Sam's really having a tough call here of what he wants to bring up. It will be that VMAX, however, and he brings up the Giratina V with a little bit less damage on it in order to take this KO. He will play the Path to the Peak, no question about it this time. Lost Impact will boost his Lost Zone and take a 3-prize KO. Does Leopoldo have the pieces necessary to take all 4 of his remaining prize cards this turn?
Medicham V still in the prizes. Remoraid was placed down. Hopefully that Octillery can be reclaimed thanks to Clara to find another piece. The Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX is also on the bench. Trying to also needs to find Radiant Alakazam to get rid of Manaphy, so G-Max
also
Rapid
needs a
Flow.
few energy cards. There's
So
quite a few things that he
many.
needs here.
And this ain't Mew. This is not a miracle going on. It's got to be Clara or bust, I think.
Melanie being found does allow Leopoldo to draw some cards and also bring back an energy. I don't think he has another energy retrieval. I'm pretty sure one was discarded early and we saw one utilized last turn.
So it's going to be Melanie attaching a water energy from the discard pile, fully powering up the Urshifu to draw 3 from the top. There's the Clara. Radiant Alakazam is in the hand. Is there still a little bit of math that can be done here? Sam Chen has the Star Requiem sitting in his back pocket, ready to go to take the final prizes. And this is what Giratina wants to do. This is its endgame checkmate. And it's up to Leopoldo to take this victory from the jaws of defeat.
Yeah, I don't think Leopoldo's quite going to have it here, and what we're going to see is he's going to have to go for a defensive retreat. More than likely, we're going to see the Rapid Strike energy with this extra attachment being here. He's going to move this Urshifu probably to the bench, and that means that the Remoraid or Alakazam is going to have to come into the active spot.
Right, and thanks to Path to the Peak, the Radiant Alakazam is still turned off.
Yep.
So there's no manipulation there of trying to get the knockout on the Manaphy to dig for one more prize. And it's just going to be the retreat into Radiant Alakazam.
Sam can win the game with the boss's orders right here. He does not find it, however. And I actually don't know if he has a great way to search his deck. He does have a Jet Energy that could move this Comfey into the active spot. We could see a Flower selecting. I'm not 1,000% sure that I saw that second boss's orders in his deck last turn, though. I don't know if he even has access to it.
Yeah, and because Leopoldo's at 4 prizes, you know, Roxanne is still off. You can't just go for a Hail Mary trying to find some way to maybe escape rope to, then the Remoraid just comes up, I suppose. So I'm just digging deep, Chip, trying to find a scenario here.
If he finds boss, he wins the game instantly. And if he doesn't, there's a decent shot Leopoldo is going to be able to close things out.
Ooh, tough call. Jet Energy on the Comfey to go for a Flower selecting to find a boss. Is there maybe a Lost Vacuum? Bump your own path, draw a card off of Radiant Greninja.
No Lost Vacuum in this list. The path is just going to stay in play until Leopoldo bumps it.
And so this is so tough. There's the attach of the Jet Energy for turn. Just going to be another lost impact to take 1 prize on the Radiant Alakazam.
Always feels bad to lost impact for 1 single prize because that is way more damage than is necessary, but it's what Sam had to do here. Now does Leopoldo have the game-winning combo of cards?
There's a draw for a turn. We know that Clara is in the hand from last turn, so this is going to be Octillery and basic Water Energy grab from the discard pile.
Yeah, and can get back the Radiant Alakazam, which is an important piece of this puzzle.
And there's 3 Tower of Water, so Rapid Strike Search can grab the Path Bump. Radiant Alakazam is also gone, though, can be grabbed back with the Clara.
Yes, yep, and that's exactly what we see here. 2 Water Energy as well being added to the hand, and I think Leopoldo should just about have it here.
All right, so has all the pieces necessary, just needs to execute.
Yep.
4 prizes now. Again, Radiant Alakazam moving the damage counters over, knocks out the Manaphy.
As long as this Tower of Waters is in the deck or in the hand, it's not in the deck actually, will be yet another double gunner. No, it is going to be the Tower of Waters. He's got it.
Okay.
All right, he should have the game-winning play here. Tower of Waters comes into play. Double gunner puts damage counters onto the Manaphy and the... This puts damage counters onto the Manaphy and to the Giratina. Takes out the Manaphy, and then G-Max Rapid Flow can target both the Comfey and the Giratina V-Star to take all 4 prizes in 1 single turn.
Absolutely beautiful. That stalling play to bring up the Radiant Alakazam. He had to cross his fingers and hope that Sam Chen didn't have the boss's orders and finally came to fruition. I think the numbers all check out. This is a lot of cards and a lot of dice being slung back and forth, Chip. Going to make sure that everything adds up.
Yeah, figuring out exactly what's happening here. I'm pretty sure Leopoldo just has game on board. 160 damage on that benched Giratina V-Star. 120 damage would KO both it and the Comfey. We'll move the damage counters over just to be sure. And there we go.
So with the Manaphy knocked out and the G-Max Rapid Flow, that is 4 prizes in 1 turn for Leopoldo. Gonna take a very long, very grueling game 1.
Yeah, coming out on top, showing us exactly how to navigate this difficult and complicated Rapid Strike deck. And Sam Chen, with only 18 minutes remaining, he's going to have a tough time pulling out a win in this set.
And he was already playing pretty rapid fire in that first game, if I must say so. And it just came down to how awkward the choices ended up being. That's what really slows you down with this game, Chip. Every game is winnable, but you've got to dig so deep and really predict the future. Leopoldo not having access to Metacham V, being very awkward with the early Octilleries, and it was just too difficult to find those big mid-game combos he was looking for. So really had to play out a full, longer game than he would have liked as well.
The Lost Impact being so powerful, taking a 3-prize knockout, but 3 prizes is nothing for Leopoldo. Able to do that in one single attack as well. G-Max Rapid Flow KOing both the Comfey and that Giratina V-Star.
And now the players are shuffling up, getting prepared for game number 2. Sam Chen, I think, can be proud of how clean that game was, how close it came, despite, you know, the 2 Psychic Energy being prized. It was very difficult to get that early idea up and running, but once again, Leopoldo's playing on hard mode. No Metacham V and down a Tower of Waters to try to make this happen.
And looking at Sam Chen's side of the prize cards, that Manaphy being in there is really tough as well. That means that Leopoldo's going to have free reign to utilize that G-Max Rapid Flow basically as often as he'd like.
And Sam Chen, of course, just going to go second in the scenario. You don't want turn 2 you know, nonsense happening to you, of course. But Leopoldo, starting with Remoraid in the active and a Battle VIP pass, picking up the Inteleon V, the Urshifu VMAX, and another Inteleon.
Honestly, this Remoraid is a pretty annoying starter. Can you figure out why, Skarzig? It is not a Rapid Strike Pokemon. There are 2 options of Remoraid you could play in the format right now. Leopoldo choosing to play a split, the Rapid Strike Remoraid, so you can have that free retreat when the Tower of Waters is out and running around. But this one with 70 HP is really strong into decks like Iron Valiant, so that you can withstand and get that Octillery into play and make it less likely your opponent can pull off something like their own Yoga Loop. So really going to come back to bite Leopoldo here, as he's going to have to commit an energy card to this Remoraid in order to retreat.
Right, and we saw how much of a premium those were in game number 1, but just going to pass over. It's over to Sam Chen. Giratina V in the active is nice. If all else fails this turn, you've got your Abyss Seeking ready to go. First, it's going to be a Nest Ball.
And this is looking like a pretty difficult hand to work with here. I think this Nest Ball is basically going to have to find the Radiant Greninja, and Sam's going to be crossing his fingers for a Battle VIP pass, I think.
Radiant Greninja, draw 2 cards. There's 2 Grass Energy, so not really a difficult choice to be made there. Fortunately, Sam does have the opportunity to, once again, take stock of what the rest of the list is looking like and what's in the prizes.
Yeah, you're always checking for your energy counts. You also are always checking for your Pokemon counts in this deck. You know, you never want to find yourself in a situation where you flower selecting and you see a Grass and a Psychic Energy, for example, or, you know, say like Giratina V and a V-Star, and you have to make a decision without totally knowing for sure exactly what resources you have available and what's in your prizes.
And what Sam Chen is going to be setting up here from the get-go is trying to get cards in the Lost Zone while not playing into Leopoldo's combinations, right? The Radiant Alakazam, the Metacham, the Double Gunners. When you're sitting across from a Rapid Strike Urshifu player, you kind of also need to know their deck as well. You need to know what combinations and damage output they are capable of, and it puts an additional mental strain on Sam Chen when he's making these difficult choices not to accidentally overbench or play into this potential threat of G-Max Rapid Flow that's about to happen. So
that was a pretty 2 good cards to see off of that concealed cards. Comfey and a Switch cart.
Okay.
Not too
I like
bad.
it.
Sam maybe is going to go for a different route this game and just go aggro Abyss Seeking. That's something you can do whenever you have your Manaphy prized. And honestly, it's not a bad strategy in this matchup altogether. Just go with this Abyss Seeking. Your opponent's deck is not one that's always capable of applying early pressure.
Yeah.
Just see what happens.
Yeah, and with Leopoldo, you know, not getting the Squawk ability turn 1, just maybe this Remoraid is really stuck in the active for a longer time, and he's just going to try to capitalize on the potential fish stranded on dry land to get the Abyss Seekings down and running. There's a Tower of Waters. Don't forget now, that's not the Rapid Strike. Going to be Professor's Research for 7 new cards. Once again, Clara going to the discard pile.
Yep, always an annoying one to have in the opening hand when you know you're just probably going to have to
water
research it
energy.
away. And that is going to be able to move this active Remoraid, but no Urshifu VMAX in order to pull off the Gale Thrust for 150 on turn 2.
Yeah, I do wonder what the idea could be, because once even when they're in Pokemon V and they haven't evolved into V Maxes, you still don't want them to take a lot of chip damage, because then it's so easy for Sam Chen to capitalize on that later on in the game to grab 3 prizes.
We're going to see, is that Sprinkle Water?
Sprinkle water. This is a first for me.
10 damage being placed onto the Giratina V. Hey, whenever you're playing a spread deck like the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, every little bit of damage
Yeah,
matters.
he's playing the long game, Chip. Sprinkle water on the Giratina V. This is going to be another Abyss Seeking, but Jet Energy first.
And I think the big reason Sam chose to hold off on using the switch cart last turn into the Comfey is because he wants to utilize those switch carts to heal his Pokemon. Doesn't want to get no value from that valuable resource, as we see another one now being added to the handoff this flower selecting.
It's going to be great to hold on to these. Again, there's only 2 in the deck, but it's a great way to really throw off the math. Sam Chen, after this flower selecting, can just retreat right back into the Giratina V, go for another Abyss Seeking. And there it is.
Most used attack in the deck. Top 4 cards, gets to keep 2 of them, and Lost Zone's another 2.
Yeah, so Mirage Gate's going to be active. Leopoldo needs to respond to this now. The Remoraid has been attached to already. Didn't want to immediately retreat into another Pokemon because there is no Urshifu VMAX. Having to take over the attachment return means there's no threat of Gmax Rapid Flow. No Octillery as of yet either. So it's still very awkward for Leopoldo as it goes back over to his turn.
We're going to see the retreat into the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and a Melanie, so retreating to discard the energy card, Melanie to accelerate those additional energies, and looking for an Urshifu VMAX does find Ultra Ball. That can find the big bear for him.
Ultra Ball gets rid of Battle VIP Pass and the Technical Machine Devolution. So this is going to find the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Or Octillery, and then into the VMAX.
Yeah, that's usually the route you'd like to go with a deck like this. You just want to get that Octillery into play as quickly as possible anyway, and then if you can combine your Rapid Strike search to go get the Pokemon you need, you might as well do it.
Yeah, perfect sequencing. I almost missed the step, Chip. I almost threw. And having the 2 Remoraid is also nice because you're constantly going to be able to pivot to the next Octillery. We saw Sam Chen immediately hunt down Octillery in game number 1, and how awkward that was for Leopoldo across the rest of the game.
Yeah, probably not something Sam's going to worry about in this game, now that Leopoldo has established the second Remoraid, right? Because it's much lower value to go boss's orders after an Octillery if your opponent just can get another Octillery on the next turn. So Leopoldo will be committing an extra bench space, however, so it ends up being, a little annoying still to deal with.
All right, Comfey goes down. Giratina V now heavily damaged thanks to that sprinkle water. Wow, that extra 10 just makes it look so juicy right there in the active.
You never know when that extra 10 damage could pop up.
We've seen games, where scratch or rain splash does matter.
Yeah, it absolutely can happen. Sam just having so many cards to work with here, but still no Colress, I think, in this hand. Let's see if he can find one off this concealed cards.
The concealed cards has been pretty kind to Sam Chen on average. A couple more Giratina Vs hoping to be established. Plenty of cards in the Lost Zone thanks to double Abyss Seeking. Just needs a little bit more help.
Yeah, needs just 2 more cards in the Lost Zone. He does have a Nest
Ball
to get a
Colress that
Comfey.
we're trying to give you your cue, buddy. Where are you?
Hiding out in the deck, it seems.
Yeah, he's in the lab, but he locked the door behind him. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there's 3 Colress.
No!
And the other one's hiding in the deck as well. Still no Colress found for Sam at any point in this game. And these are the types of games where, as a Lost Box player, you really question your decision-making to choose to play this deck. It's like, I'm so reliant on this one single supporter. Why, oh, why can I not find it earlier on?
And every deck looks like, absolute dog water when you can't get your key cards. And it's just Giratina V does it in spectacular fashion.
Reminds me of the welder decks from a little while ago, back in like 2019, 2018. Those decks were so reliant on finding that one key supporter. Sam is going to play the flower selecting, looking for another chance at a Colress, and does not find it. There's also Pokegear in his deck as well, let's not forget. So he has tons of outs to have potentially seen a Colress at this point in the game, and it just has not come through.
Yeah, no Sableye this game either. Sam Chen knows that Giratina V is going to be the answer, the be-all, end-all of this game. But without the Colress, he's now a step behind. And this is after sacrificing his early game for just the double Abyss Seeking.
We will see the escape rope be the play. And another Abyss Seeking. 3 turns in a row of Abyss Seeking is not really what you draw up with this deck.
All right, well, 3 Abyss Seeking, it's a recipe for success. We just have to believe. If you put enough cards in the Lost Zone, eventually it just loops back around and becomes a big brain play. We just have to believe, Chip.
Yeah, I think you're being too generous by saying this is what Sam's trying to go for here. I mean, it's
thinning
just,
down even more
yeah,
cards,
you know,
Chorus, maybe the Requiem just
he does
wreaks
finally find
havoc.
one. Does finally find a Chorus. So next turn we can finally see that be played. It does come at a cost, though. Both Path to the Peak and Jet Energy being such strong cards going to the Lost Zone.
And what's important, too, is, you know, this also means that Cramorant hasn't been part of this early equation. There's no early damage on one of these VMAX Pokemon where the Lost Impact and then the Star Requiem become the 1-2 punch to take 6 prizes.
So Leopoldo could take a 2-prize knockout on this Giratina V in the active spot this turn, either with the G-Max Spiral of the Inteleon VMAX or with yet another G-Max Rapid Flow.
And after the double gunner establishes some more damage, Sam Chen, again, does have switch cards, but, you know, is still living under the constant threat of that Metacham V showing up. Melanie for the turn, attaching to the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, drawing 3 more cards. Radiant Alakazam is now picked up alongside the Inteleon VMAX.
Yeah, and an Earthen Vessel. Honestly, I don't know if Leopoldo could have picked 3 better cards to draw into, as now he's able to search out up to 2 more basic water energies, which he will choose to take both, and that's yet another double gunner online this turn. And don't forget, he still has access to the Rapid Strike Search, which is being utilized right now to grab a Rapid Strike energy.
So many important resources grabbed out of the deck this turn, Chip, means that any sort of buffer Sam Chen was hoping for Leopoldo to have a sort of weaker turn or a slower setup turn has gone completely out of the window. Here's another double gunner, even more damage coming through. Comfey now in range of just the Radiant Alakazam plus Yoga Loop combo. Here he comes.
Yeah, we're moving 20 from the Comfey to the active Giratina, it looks like.
Ooh.
So probably not going to see the G-Max Rapid Flow more than likely. Or if we do see it, it's going to be on the benched Pokemon. And I think this is smart from Leopoldo as well. He doesn't want to play into being Rock Sand. That's a card that he really does not like seeing, so he's fine to take 1 additional prize card here if he wants to. But it looks like he's just going to set up the damage on both of these Pokemon.
So Giratina V is going to take some damage here, and then Radiant Greninja going to take a little bit more as well.
Yeah, setting that up so that it can be easily KO'd by another double gunner. We might see Leopoldo trying to set up for a 5-prize turn. If you thought 4 prizes was a lot, wait till you see what Leopoldo has in store.
Will this pay off, Chip, or is he flying too close to the sun? Sam Chen has 1 more chance to put some attacks down, get some pressure going, remove these threats from play. And after 2 Melanies, maybe the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX is no longer the big threat. Needs to be, still needs 10 in the Lost Zone, right? So has to somehow play Colress, has it from last turn, but can't boss up this Inteleon, which I think he really wants to take down.
Yeah, he really wants to also evolve these Giratina Vs. Give them
That's
the V
true.
Star, make it so they have a lot more HP, make it more difficult for Leopoldo to pull off some crazy play next turn.
And both of these decks share that same, you know, strategy where they need very key cards to function. It's just that Leopoldo with Rapid Strike Search and Forest Seal Stone can get those individual, incredibly specific cards more aggressively, whereas Sam Chen just has to draw through the deck as much as possible with Colress and Abyss Seeking and just kind of hope everything is in the top part of the deck where it's needed.
Now, Sam has got 10 cards in the Lost Zone now, so that means Star Requiem is potentially online. We could see that being utilized this turn to 1-hit KO the Urshifu VMAX in Leopoldo's active, which would take G-Max Rapid Flow off the table next turn.
And a Jet Energy being offered up alongside Counter Catcher, Chip.
That's pretty tough. The Counter Catcher can be really, really strong, but at this point in the game, I think Sam really wants to focus on the Urshifu, get that out of the active spot, you know, and by get it out of the active spot, I mean, you know, out of the active spot and into the discard pile, KO that thing, get rid of it. because that is what is potentially threatening you, especially with your mana fee being prized.
Oh, this is a tough choice, yeah, because the Jet Energy is such a great pivot to bring that Giratina V up into the active, not have to worry about it. And by getting rid of the Jet Energy, keeping the counter catcher, Sam Chen is prepping to have that final turn where he lost game 1 because there was no boss's orders, wants to have that item card ready to bring things full circle. Now it's going to be Mirage Gate.
Going to Super Rod first, put back those energy cards. And then now able to accelerate 2 of them from the deck into play. A Psychic and a Grass Energy being potential choices. Also, Water Energy to the active to retreat could be an option.
Yeah, just reevaluating. There's a lot of energy to choose from. A lot of damage in play. It's so hard to read the Rapid Strike Urshifu. You know what they could do, but it's nebulous on when they could do it. And because Sam Chen didn't have the capability of, heading off the Octillery before things got too out of hand, just has to trust that the double Giratina V can take 3 prizes and 3 more.
So pretty interesting here. It looks like Sam is going for a Radiant Greninja play. Can take 1 prize on the Remoraid or just set up damage onto 2 VMAX so that all he has to do is Star Requiem once and Lost Impact once to close out the game.
Yeah, it's very difficult to set that up, right, Chip? Because if you go for Lost Impact or something like that to set up that chip damage, there's always the threat of... I think the Professor Turos was discarded again this game. It was kind of out of the running pretty early on in game 1, but that is also a card that can be very devastating to deny that big hit.
Yeah, it would be a really strong card for Leopoldo to be able to find. Not sure if it is available or not, or if it has been discarded. And Sam going for this play is going to also bring up this Radiant Alakazam, try to stick it in the active spot. And we talked about how annoying it is to potentially retreat the Remoraid. Radiant Alakazam is that, but multiplied magnitudes as well.
The 2 retreat cost is an immovable object. There's 1 escape rope in the deck. There's still potential for 4 Seal Stone to find that retreat. Yep. Professor Turo's Scenario can also scoop this up, get it out of the active. But Sam Chen is playing towards his out, and this is probably the strongest line he has from this position, is for Radiant Alakazam to be stranded, and then the chip damage from the Radiant Greninja translating into big prizes.
We will see some damage being placed from the double gunner. Now, Leopoldo, I do believe, is down both of his Melanie thus far in this game.
Yes, they were used for the G-Max Rapid Flows.
Right, back-to-back turns. So that means that G-Max Rapid Flow is off the table for this turn, but a potential option in the future.
So now Leopoldo's doing some math. Has the energy retrieval, grabbing 2 water energy, uses 1 double gunner to distribute the energy. The Giratina Vs are very heavily damaged now, and he just has to figure out a way to kind of go through and clean this up. There's always a chance, right, that if he extends to get 1 knockout, Medicham V comes out of the prizes, and you can set up a Yoga Loop on top of everything. Wait, he already...
What's up?
No, I see. My mistake. I thought he had used the Painful Spoons already, but it was the first double gunner.
Right,
then second double gunner, then Painful Spoons.
Yeah, and it looks like it will be 2 damage counters moved from the Comfey to the Giratina V, and that will take it out. That will be a KO. So 2 prizes now for Leopoldo.
And Leopoldo does not get the Medicham V. I think that maybe he was hoping to extend into that just a little bit to make this final, sequence a little bit cleaner. But now I'm just going to go for Octillery and keep on trucking. And when you're this far ahead, I think that you aren't too worried now, especially with when the Giratina V is going down. And this is the part of the game where if you're Leopoldo, if things aren't going your way, you start to look through the loss zone in your opponent's discard pile, try to evaluate what the Mirage Gate, Super Rod, Energy Count situation is, how they might be able to respond.
Now, I believe time should have been called at this point, so Leopoldo should be turn 0, which means that Sam Chen is only going to have 2 turns left, and he has 5 prize cards remaining. It is entirely possible he could take those 5 prize cards in 2 turns, of course, with the 3 VMAX Pokemon being in play. What Leopoldo could do, and this would require you to really analyze and recognize the situation. And that would be if Leopoldo literally just played the Professor Turo and picked up this Intellion. Just pick it up, put it into your hand, and then pass. Sam can, you know, take 3 prizes potentially on one of the other VMAX Pokemon, and then on your next turn, all you would have to do is pass once again. Sam has no way to take his last 2 prizes in one hit, and all of a sudden, Leopoldo gets the 1-0 victory in round number 9.
But when you are playing Rapid Strike Urshifu, it's the siren's call, Chip, of needing to take all these prizes and be flashy. But has the Rapid Strike Energy attached return into the Iono. All of these cards in hand for Sam Chen going to go down to the bottom of the deck, and he's going to have to draw back up just 5 in hand.
Yeah, honestly, I think a pretty decent shot for Leopoldo to find either the Escape Rope or the Forest Sealstone here.
Escape Rope is picked up. Now Radiant Alakazam can get out of the active spot, and now we're once again cooking with gas, Chip.
And now Sam has a decision to make. What does he promote into the active spot here?
It all seems pretty difficult. This has been the theme of this best of 3 is Sam Chen makes awkward decisions for 50 minutes.
Yeah, that's not the movie that Sam Chen really wants to go see, but it's the one we're watching at this point.
I brought the popcorn, Chip.
You're not sharing?
And Comfey is coming into the active.
That will be the choice. It will be KO'd here by a G-Max Spiral. But Leopoldo has done something in this game that we didn't see him do in game number 1, and it looked like he was going to try to play around here in this game as well, and that is having taken 3 prize cards. He is now able to be potentially Roxanne, and now he's only getting 2. Now he's going to have 2 prize cards remaining, so he can potentially close out the game on the next turn. Let's see what Sam Chen has in response.
And I think that if there was more time, of course, in this game, there's the, okay, I've got Roxanne, Counter Catcher, trying to bring up the Octillery and just really shut down Leopoldo's access to all of those resources and abilities to keep up the threat. But because Sam Chen now has 2 turns of I need to take 5 prizes, those sort of defensive plays are kind of out of the window.
Ooh, and that's a pretty good top deck for the turn. Colress's Experiment being found by Sam Chen. He also does have Radiant Greninja to utilize, concealed cards. We'll find him 2 more.
And a Mirage Gate. This is a great way to get the Giratina V powered up. Do we have access to V-Star, however, Chip?
No V-Star just yet. I'm not sure, actually, even if there's any energy cards in the deck. And sure enough, no energy cards in the deck. Sam drew the rest of his energy.
Oh, so not being able to accelerate those into play is very detrimental.
He does have a Psychic Energy in the hand still. All he needs at this point is a Colress's Experiment. And I think that's why Sam played this Mirage Gate, probably knowing that there's no energy in the deck, but he needed to shuffle his deck so that he could have a better shot to hit the Giratina V-Star off this Colress's Experiment.
All right, let's go. Needs the Giratina V-Star in
Not
order to get the
yet.
Requiem.
Okay. He did find it. 1 single Giratina V-Star found at least.
All right, Cramorant and VIP Pass sent to the Lost Zone. And now with the Psychic Energy attached from the hand, and then the Giratina V-Star entering play, can Requiem to take 3 prizes this turn.
That's exactly what we're going to see. And then Sam Chen is setting up for a win on the next turn with one of the 2 boss's orders he has waiting in hand.
Absolutely beautiful. Also has Path to the Peak.
Very strong.
Bump this Tower of Waters. And now it's going to be Star Requiem. It's up to Leopoldo. After taking 3 prizes, though, in that last turn, still no Metacham V.
3 prizes for Sam Chen, and now both players with just 2 prizes remaining. Leopoldo's draw is the Squawkabilly. That's not useful.
It's going to be a Spiritomb. Get it out of the hand. Rapid Strike Energy attached. No Melanie.
It's going to be the Karina's Focus, so no Iono as well. Sam Chen should have the game locked up next turn.
See, there's TMD Evolution. I think I see a Forest Sealstone.
Yeah, there is the 4 Sealstone, so Leopoldo can get any 1 card out of his deck. But at this point, I don't know that there's anything that really helps him. He doesn't have a way to remove this Intellium VMAX from play. He doesn't have a way to heal it. He's already played his supporter card, so Professor Turo is not online. Rapid Strike Search can get the Counter Stadium so that he can give this Pokemon free retreat. He can bring up the Urshifu so we can see that Gale Thrust for the boosted 150 damage. But all Sam Chen is going to need is a basic energy card or a jet energy and a boss's orders, and that'll seal it up for him here in game number 2. And I just got to say, if Leopoldo had only seen the line to use the Professor Turo, pick up this Intellium VMAX, it takes his lose condition out of play.
Yeah, and I was thinking as well, right, if you can bump the path to the peak, then the Radiant Alakazam could knock out the Radiant Greninja.
It could, but that's just one prize card, right?
And then you're hoping for the Medicham V so that you can attach to your energy return to it.
Right, but there's not enough damage on either of these Giratina for you to Yoga Loop for that extra turn.
True. Yeah, no Echoing Horn in this build.
Yeah, and we see that energy. We see the boss, Sam Chen, able to bring up that damaged Intellium VMAX, taking the 2 prizes needed to win game number 2, which means this match ends in a tie.
Unbelievable. Sam Chen able to bring this all the way back to be another tie, 4-0-5.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing what the players are doing here. I mean, there is a tie. There's no room for a gentleman's agreement at this point because, you know, no game 3 happened. There's no way to know who would have won our game number 3. So it looks like it is going to be a tie here on the stage.
Yeah, the Medicham V being in the prizes 2 games in a row really took a lot of wind out of Leopoldo's sails. Both players got to do what they wanted to do for the most part, but Rapid Strike Urshifu, you know, when it's missing 1 or 2 key cards, it's just difficult to get those multi-prize turns when you need them. And because Giratina is such a methodical deck, taking a lot of actions, taking a lot of time, especially considering how awkward the draws were for Sam Chen, he had to take all the time in order to make sure he was making the correct play.
Yeah, really tough, really annoying for both of these players to see this last game end in a tie. You know, it doesn't really do either of them any good. They'll get top 5-12 most likely to earn some championship points.
And, you know, there are players that are going to say, you know, Chip saw the line as well. Professor Turo's scenario, scoop up that Pokemon and just get your win, homie. Don't try to take those prizes. Just take your W, and, you know, that'll just be something that maybe Leopoldo will learn from in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely not a common play.
Yeah, it's certainly an oddball win condition.
It's the type of things that really only come up when you're in time, and just players practice the game so much. If you're playing on PTCGO or you're playing with friends, you're never really considering the +3 turns type of scenarios that could come up. And you really have to adjust your thinking in those situations. You have to think, okay, if I don't lose this game, you know, if this ends and nobody has taken all 6 of their prize cards, I won game number 1, that means I win the match. It's really difficult to adjust that line of thinking until you've just had a lot of practice doing it.
And this is a matchup where, you know, are you going to practice that scenario of, okay, but what if I didn't have Medicham V 2 games in a row and I'm playing against Giratina V-Star? And because of, as we talked about in game number 1, right, if the game goes long, the further and further the turns advance and the time advances, Giratina becomes more and more favored because that deck gets so thin. And just the power of Star Requiem to take 3 prizes is just something that Urshifu runs out of resources to even stop from happening to them.
It was pretty close. Leopoldo had a chance to close things out. Sam Chen, however, fighting back in game number 2 in order to close it out and lock up a tie. Lock up the top 5-12 finish and earn a little bit of championship points towards your World's Invitation.
Yeah, and as you said, Chip, the players certainly want a winner to be decided, but that was a match that went down a completely different path in the labyrinth that I had never expected and I did not think we were going to see. So all things considered, it was a pretty dynamic and interesting best of 3.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's what you expect from Urshifu, honestly. You know, yeah, best of 3, right? Yeah, that's what you kind of expect from Urshifu. There's so many different options that I love watching the spread decks like that, you know, just kind of lay out their game